The Greater Toronto housing market is currently experiencing a significant shift in sentiment, with many market participants eagerly anticipating potential interest rate cuts here in 2024. This optimism has translated into increased market activity as buyers and investors look to capitalize on favorable conditions before they change. The competition is starting to pick up and is driven by a low supply of homes. This has led to a frenzied environment where multiple offers on properties are coming back again in some micro markets, which could end up putting pressure on prices and making the quest for home ownership more challenging for many Canadians. Hey there, I'm Matt Sloan, and I'm a realtor here in the Greater Toronto area. And if I could ask a huge favor, if you could hit that subscribe button, it would mean a lot, as I'm working on trying to grow my new YouTube channel. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Now, let's get into how this first month of 2024 has gone within the Greater Toronto Area real estate market, and why it may seem that we could be headed towards a more competitive market once again. So stay with me as I pull up these slides and we can dive into the numbers further. All right, so starting us off is this dot chart. I really love this because this shows a range of average sale price from October 2019 to January 2024. And something that to point out in this one when looking at this past month, January 2024, is that it's not that different than last year's January in regards to price. And we have just kind of moved along this past year, slow and steady, with a couple peaks and a couple valleys as we've gone through, but we've really settled in to a very similar, again, price point as we were last January, which what we have seen happen in the past when we have had a bubble or a mini bubble. If you see here in the spring, if you look at the spring when we had that mini bubble, it really gives a good indicator of what will happen if in prices if we see rates come down again. Because if we remember last spring, fixed rates really started to come down because of the 5-year bond, and that's when we started to see an increase in activity and ultimately prices going up. Now, I would likely guess that since we saw this spike last year when fixed rates came down just before the spring market, I don't know if we'll really see that again this year. And I think with things starting to pick up already and the lack of inventory that we're headed towards, I think we might see our first rate cuts come in the summer rather than the spring, but time will tell. Over this next slide here, we have a summary of the last 13 months. And this one's cool because it really allows us to see at a glance of the market and how it has reacted in the different points of the year. A takeaway that we can see is that even though the average price was similar to last January, we had 37% more sales this past January than a year ago. So it tells us that the market is starting to become more active and properties are selling again. We can see what happened to the average sale price when months of inventory went down in the spring in 2023, which I just mentioned. So as I mentioned, if we don't start to see rates pull back as we move through 2024, this gives us a good indication as to what could happen to the inventory on the market and the prices if rates do come down like they did last spring. So this wasn't just a seasonal trend. As I mentioned, it was due to the fixed rates coming down and the 5-year bond. We can also notice since September 2023, the months of inventory has started to trend downwards. So ever since September, if we look at the months of inventory here, we can see that it's dipping down all the way until this past month where we're settling into about 2.39 months of inventory. So over in this next slide, that really points out down in the red here, 2.39 months of inventory. This is an overall view of what January looked like. And what really jumps off this page is, yeah, like I said, that 2.39 months of inventory, standing inventory, which indicates that we are headed back into a seller's market and we're on the low end of inventory overall. So that's a really good way to guide the market and see where things are headed by tracking the months of inventory, and will really allow us to see how things are evolving month over month here. So just to give a quick background of months of inventory. If months of inventory are 1 to 3 months, it's typically a seller's market. If inventory is in the 3 to 5 months, then it's typically a balanced market. And this could change within micro areas, right? Within micro markets. And then anything above 5 is is definitely a buyer's market. So we're all the way back down to 2.39 months of inventory right now. So in different markets, we might see a higher level of months of inventory and we might see lower months of inventory. So definitely ask your realtor, or if you have further questions, you can hit me up in the link in the description below, and I'll be happy to look into your micro market further to let you know really how things are looking in your area. Over this next slide, these are the stats for the past 6 Januaries that we just touched up on, which really helps us put these different months of time into context. So it's all the way from January 2019 and January 2024. So it's only the months of January, and we can really see how this past month, how this time of year has reacted over the past 6 years. So as I mentioned, looking closely, we had 37% more sales this January than last January. We had slightly more listings on the market now, which both of these things show that the market is being active again because we're getting the sales and we're getting the listings on the market. Price is relatively the same, but with more sales. So this tells me that a lot of sales were around that $1 million price point. So that shows that townhomes and semis are probably getting pretty competitive in most areas throughout the Greater Toronto area. And lastly, as I mentioned on the last slide, we have 2.39 months of inventory, which is down compared to last January and down from this past December. So inventory is continuing to trend downwards, which could lead to some further pressure on pricing. So that kind of gives a good snapshot of what we should be seeing in January's and how the market has reacted in past years. So it'll be interesting to see what, or we can kind of predict, just from these trends, what's going to be coming up. And if we continue to see the inventory go down, then we'll continue to see the pressure on pricing, but only time will tell. I hope this gave you a bit of a clearer picture of exactly where the Greater Toronto real estate market is right now. And as a reminder, these are numbers for all home types across the GTA. So if you have any questions about your specific market, please feel free to schedule a time with me in the first link in the description below. Thank you for tuning in, and if you found this discussion insightful, please like, subscribe, and share your perspectives in the comments down below. Your engagement helps us dive deeper into the topics that matter most to you. So until next time, keep an eye on the market and stay ahead of the curve. See you in the next one.